We start breaking down Week 8 in the NFL. It's the Bears and Cowboys in Dallas Sunday at noon. Good evening, everybody. We talk about it right here on Bears All Access, brought to you by IGS Energy. Happy Friday with my broadcast partner, Tom Thayer from News Radio 105.9 WBBM. The Super Bowl winning Bear going down to Dallas. I know you got fond memories of Dallas over the course of your career. Give me one that really sticks out.
Really, one is the point of emphasis that Mike Ditka made about the respect he had for Tom Landry. That was a coach a couple decades ago. However, he said that everything from the way we stood for the national anthem to the effort that we gave in the game, he wanted us to pay attention to details. That 85 year, we went there for the third preseason game, I think it was, and it broke out into such a massive fight that guys were ejected by the third play of the game. But then we went down there during the regular season and we beat them 44-0. And it was a humiliating loss for Dallas. And I think personally, Ditka felt a little empathy for Tom Landry because he was his mentor along with George Halas. And but, you know, all due respect for the Dallas Cowboys at that time, I want the Bears to go down and have the same performance that we did and surprised a lot of people.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to say that game because I do recall it. It was November 17th of 85, and you guys went to 11-0. You clinched the NFC Central. That's what it was called back then. And the Bears snapped a 6-game losing streak against Mr. Landry and the Cowboys. So I think that probably was as important a win as any for you guys to propel yourselves to a championship.
In so many ways, going into that environment with the old Dallas Cowboy Stadium that still had tons of respect around the league, the type of atmosphere that the Dallas Cowboys, Tony Dorsett, and that whole crew put on the field week in and week out. But as an offensive line and the way we ran the ball for Walter Payton and the way the defense took care of their end of the bargain and the way what they did to quarterbacks, it was a great plane ride home, I will tell you that.
I hope the Bears could have one as well. Coming up at the show, rookie cornerback Kyler Gordon joins us for a couple of segments. We want to thank our producers, Dan Borelli and Jordan Trudup, and the folks here at The Score. All right, so Matt Eberflus kind of set the tone for the week a couple of days ago when he got to the podium. And how to deal with losing is one thing, and they did overcome a 3-game losing streak by beating the Patriots on Monday night, but on a short week now. Forget about that. And now how to deal with success.
You know, when you have success, you have to handle that a certain way. You know, when you have adversity, you have to handle that a certain way. And I think when you become a mature competitor, you have the ability to handle them almost one and the same. So certainly when you win, you know, there's all this other stuff going on, but there's distractions in that. When you win, there's a lot of so-called hype for, you know, a victory or 2 victories or 3 victories, wherever that might be. When you're in the middle of a season, I think that you have to keep everything in perspective.
How do you feel about that statement right there? I mean, it's a super young team. They're probably giddy as heck about winning in New England to beat Bill Belichick and the Patriots. But I see what he's doing. I see he's trying to just stay level-headed, keep everybody level-headed.
You know, it's kind of funny because the phraseology is different from Matt Eberflus, from Mike Ditka, but the message is the same. Make sure you're aware of all the compliments you're getting after a big win like last Monday night, because the same people that are complimenting you to your face, they want to stab you in the back when things go wrong. So I just think it's same message, different time and era how it's delivered.
How did you view how they played after watching it over and over again, the tape, and especially on the offensive side of the ball? We're going to give props to the defense as well because their second-half performances are stacking now. We've got 8 examples of some really good defense. You take away that Minnesota final drive, they haven't given up many points, and that is critical in the second half. Put all that in a bowl, shake it up, and where we at almost at the midpoint of the season from your perspective on the developments of the offense, the coaches and how they're teaching the fundamentals and techniques and how it's relating to performance in the end for both sides of the ball.
You know, the fundamental and technique is a continuous process that goes every single day in practice that they reconfirm what they're trying to teach these players to go out and just play naturally. To me, the thing that was one of the most encouraging things in the game is you can watch the emergence of the relationship between Luke Getsy and what Justin Fields does well. If you go and you just look at the third and the fourth play of the game, were the first 2 passes they threw back to back. And Justin didn't have to stand in the pocket because he was moving around. And then you look at the path that the defenders had to take. The play 3, he moved over to his right. Instead of linebackers and DBs rushing, they had to move laterally. Play 4, when he rolled out to his left to hit EQ St. Brown, there was no rushers in his face. So the importance of the fast start, the importance of the first 15, I think the Bears, the coaches, everybody put it on display what they can be early in games.
Getsy was asked this week, what was most satisfying about the win over the Patriots?
It was more about the way that we did it, more than necessarily, getting 33 points or whatever. I thought, it was probably our most physical game that our guys played. We had guys go down kind of in and out of the game, and so other guys had to step in a bunch of different reps, and there was no blink, and the guys were prepared to play. So I thought that was really a really cool part about that whole day was the play style, the physicality of it, and then when you needed guys to step in and play, they were ready to rock and roll.
And that physicality did show up on tape. I mean, there were some really powerful hits in that game, including special teams. And near the end of the game, Sterling Weatherford, you run for another 200 and plus yards. That's a mentality, a physical approach to that. The plays by the safeties, the plays by Roquan Smith, the guys up front tipping passes. I mean, you had everything going on from a physical point of view. You left a statement. You left a statement in that game.
To me, everybody, when they talk about the physical portion of the game, they usually reserve that for the offensive line, the tight ends, for the defensive line, for the linebackers. Jeff, when you have the physical style of running that David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert and Ebner, how they all run with the ball in their hands, how they bounce off the initial hit, how they get 3 extra yards after the first collision. When you talk about the physicalness of a football team and you could include the running back, man, that does a lot for your reputation going forward because there's 4 guys in the back of the defense. They don't want to tackle Dave Montgomery and Khalil Herbert one-on-one. They want that to be a group effort.
You got to throw in blasting games
style.
Oh, yeah. You got to throw in Equanimeous St. Brown blocking. I mean, it's fun to watch because we love the running game. So
blasting game, Jeff. You put a 60 number on him, you put an 80 number on him, you keep his 30 number. He's always going to bring an element of physicality to this team.
All right, so for Getsy, what's the next challenge for the offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just staying within who we are, what we do. Guys have a lot of reps and believe in things conceptually, and we got to keep continuing to maneuver that through. That's what this league is. I think it's teams that do too much. It's hard to be good at it, and guys like teams that are really, really good, they usually do what they do pretty well and then just make it look a little different to the defense, or defense makes it look a little different to the offense. So kind of the same thing. And that's the challenge of every coach across the league, is to find ways to do what your guys do well without letting it be so obvious or predictable.
I like that idea of lower volume, Tom, in terms of plays.
Me too.
I mean, that's music to our ears.
Everything on the offensive side of the ball is repetitiously perfected. And that's exactly what Luke said at the beginning of that statement. This is a team that needs reps. They need reps on the practice field that carry over to the game field.
All right, so now the Dallas Cowboys. Lot to break down here. Let's start doing it offensively. Not unlike the Bears, they have 2 running backs, and Ezekiel Elliott, and I'm not sure what his status will be. But also Tony Pollard, outstanding with his hands as well as his legs. A running game behind a solid offensive line. The Bears and Cowboys, the only 2 teams in the league with 2 backs, Tom, with over 400 yards from scrimmage. Oh, and by the way, Justin Fields is almost there as well, running the football at almost 400 yards from scrimmage. So it's a unique couple of backfields here, dual backs. But they want similar things. I mean, they're going to try to control the clock. They use that running game to their advantage to set up the passing game. And then, of course, got to talk about the defense. And that's where I'm going to bring in Cole Kmet, the Bears tight end. Number 11, Micah Parsons. You got to find him, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, it's going to be all 11. I think, between receivers who, if they got chip help, tight ends if they got chip help, backs in protection, know where he's at all times, So I think we got a good plan coming up, but at the end, he's a special player, and he's going to get his shots, but we got to handle him for sure.
On the injury report, with a shoulder that flared up later in the week, but number 11 pops up on tape repeatedly. He's got 8 sacks, and he's got confidence that he can outrun just about everybody, including Justin Fields.
Don't let him outrun you. You got to attack him, Jeff. The worst thing that you can do to the best player on the field is give him an opportunity to chase unblocked. because he will make plays all over the field, up and down in the width of the field. But again, you continuously take Cole Kmet, take Griffin, take every one of the offensive tackles, and blasting game for that matter, and you run the ball repeatedly at Micah Parsons, he's going to have to get on the defensive before you allow him to make those tackles.
They got other guys, too. Lawrence is outstanding, and so is Dorrance Armstrong. Very, very good player. He had a couple blocks, field goals, and he's showing up on tape as well. It's going to be a big test. They do not allow a lot of points. They are number one in many categories, even the nuanced ones that reflect a defense that's playing some very good football for Dan Quinn. We'll break that down and more on Dak Prescott and the boys as we get ready to go down to Dallas tomorrow afternoon and then play at a good old-fashioned noon start against the Cowboys. We'll have the coverage at 9 a.m. on WBBM with the kickoff at noon. Coming up next, Kyler Gordon joins us here on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Welcome back to Bears All Access. It's brought to you by IGS Energy. Choose clean energy for your home at IGS.com because every good choice adds up to a better world. With Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Pleased to be joined by rookie corner Kyler Gordon about the midpoint of a season. Thanks for taking the time. I know things are busy and there's a lot going on, obviously. Getting ready on a short week, taking on the Dallas Cowboys. How you feeling, first of all, at this point?
Feeling good, just getting our recovery, getting my recovery, and just getting ready to get strapped up for the next weekend.
Yeah, you getting used to these short weeks? You didn't really do that in the college game too much.
Yeah, not at all. The first one, I kind of recognized how it was going to be, but no, I'm ready, and came up with a good plan and routine just to get myself, my body, my mind right.
Hey, Kyler, I wish I would have known this the other day, but I went to Notre Dame. Did you really, as a cornerback, as a top athlete, did you really consider going to Notre Dame?
100%. I was like super close to going to Notre Dame. I was in love with it. My parents were in love with it. I was just like, I'm telling you, it was very close, very close.
You think from that time, that decision you made to go to Washington, and then you think of what you went through last year. Does last year at this time, you're getting ready to play a college game, does last year at this time seem a long time ago?
Yes and no and yes. Like, I honestly feels like I was just in college playing at a college night. So honestly, it doesn't seem like that long ago. It seems recent, honestly.
You know, when you take everything into consideration, you talk about your individual improvement as a player. You talk about the talent that you're facing and you're succeeding against. You think about the big stage of Monday Night Football. Is all that hard to take in, that so much has happened in such a short period of time? Because you finish your college season, you get ready for the combine, and now you're on center stage. You're starting in one of the most high-profile positions in the NFL.
Yeah. Honestly, going through all that short amount of time and stuff like that, honestly just trying to find the best ways and using my resources to find the best way for me to properly prepare myself for that position and being on that stage and being able to execute. And I just really just find, like I said, like the best ways I can get myself going and knowing how I can prepare myself and, just being detailed and intentional with how I want to go and set up things for myself so I can perform how I know I can.
Kyler Gordon, our guest here on Bears All Access on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak with you. The trick of this is that you're doing something that's really difficult. You're playing inside nickel. We talk about it a lot. It gets a lot of praise, and for good reason. Yeah. And, when we met Buster Screen, he was a veteran here a few years ago, smaller body type, and really was a rugged player and just learned. He really taught me a lot about what goes into nickel, and I didn't really realize it. And now, it's a starting job. Let's just call it what it is. But you're also learning outside. You got special teams meeting coming up here soon. There's a lot on the plate, but they wouldn't give you all that if they didn't think you could handle it.
Correct.
Yeah. So is that a compliment that you take seriously?
Yeah, most definitely. Them knowing and believing in me, that I can handle this job and how much they're going to throw on my plate, and knowing that I'm going to keep asking for more and keep wanting to improve and giving them my 100%. They believe in me and I believe in them. So, it goes hand in hand, and I'm going to give them my 100% and go all out at it. And I know I can, and I know I hold myself to a high standard, and I know what I can do, and 100%.
You learn a lot about business right away, don't you? When I first started in radio, long time ago, I had an internship at a station, and I was showing up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I showed up middle of my internship, and everybody was crying, and people were getting their resumes. And what happened? Well, they changed formats of the radio station, and I like, wow, that just happened, right? And then the next day, everybody's gone. You know, you have one of your captains get traded to the Philadelphia Eagles this week, and Robert Quinn, a lot of respect for him in the locker room. How do you process that as a first-time NFL player, rookie halfway through his season?
Yeah, honestly, I haven't got a lot of experiences where I've got to see that. So just kind of seeing the way the NFL works and how the businesses are. But, you know, having a leader like him, being able to take, you know, the things, whatever we can take from him as a rookie and the other guys, you know, we talk about, the small things that we see, you know, coming from the veteran and how they, you know, they go about this game and how, you know, what prepares them and what gets them in the mode or, you know, different things that both benefit them and help them play better during game time. So, just all those little things, you know, thankful what I got to see and stuff like that and the type of leader he was, yeah.
You know, Kyler, through my experience as a player, I know what it's like to play a full NFL season, but just backtracking a little bit. In 2020, you play 134 snaps. 2021, you play 797 snaps. Did that seem like a big increase to you at the time? Because I just take in consideration the length of an NFL season, not asking you about that, but just back in your experience about that huge amount of reps that you took on in 2021.
No, I wouldn't say it seemed like a lot. I mean, I'm glad it was a lot. Honestly, I was disappointed that the 2020 season was short. But when I finally got that full season, it didn't feel like a lot. No, I was really just looking forward to every week, honestly.
I was looking up your combine numbers, and it said you did 20 reps with 225.
Yeah.
Dude, that's good. So is that something like you worked for, just training for that amount of reps, and do you think you could do it today?
Yeah, 100%. That was my goal, was to get over 20, something way over 20. I think I put it at like 25, but ended up only getting 20. But yeah, that was definitely something I worked towards a lot during my combine process, and you know, working on my form in different ways to just increase my strength, and a lot of those different things with different things that are going on in the testing for my combine that I was working on. But yeah.
Oh, that's one thing that stands out. That's a heck of a job too, because I know how much work goes into being able to gain that amount of reps and just the stamina to be able to do it. So good job, man. It tells me a lot about your weight room.
Ask him how many he did.
Yeah, what'd you get?
I mean, I was heavy. I did 41, but I was heavy. So,
wow.
Yeah, but you know, it's
offensive
defensive lineman. It's, you know, when you're a guy that's 285 pounds going in there, you should do that many.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
That's Tom Thayer. I can't feel you. I could maybe do one if I was lucky on a good day. Jeff Joniak, Tom Thayer, and Kyler Gordon, our guest. What a tremendous response by the defense Monday night. The play of the entire team, the most complete game of the year so far. Every phase contributed, and almost every single player contributed. How do you feel about it looking back?
I feel really good about what we put on tape, and just knowing that that's something we can do game in and game out, and just, you know, keep holding that standard. All the guys holding each other accountable just to go out there and do our job and execute, and I know that's something we can do repeatedly. And
the interception, you got one.
Yeah.
You know, Brian Urlacher, every time when somebody got a pick, we got one. He screamed it out. That was the thing. We got one. So you got one.
Yeah, we got one.
We got one. Yeah. We got one here. And I know you wanted to score, but Tyquan Thornton, a little bit, he's got some wheels on him.
Yeah.
He caught you from behind. Alan Williams was talking about it this week. That's the finish, right? So you're going to be thinking about that.
Yeah, nah.
Feel ghost came out of nowhere, get on your back?
I knew immediately because my legs a little dead from the no huddle, but I knew. I was like, I got the 4-2 deal on my back, got to run.
Yeah, but getting the first though that's the one now, right? Yeah. That everybody's got to get that off their back a 100%. Little bit. So, do you feel you're going to take advantage of every opportunity and you know, bouncing balls? The guys are tipping balls to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
This team rallies to the ball, so the ball is going to be there for the taking. Is that pretty much the message from above?
Yeah, 100%. And being able all those throws over the middle, you know, always got to be ready for the tips and overthrows. Like we said, we got to get those, and you're just ready for everything that comes to us.
Already equaled last year's interception total, Tommy, 8 a year ago, and you guys have done it in just 7 games, so more to come. More to come as well with Kyler Gordon, our guest here on Bears All Access. Let's take a break. We'll have another segment with the young cornerback after this on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. This segment of Bears All Access is brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an appointment in clinic or virtually and start feeling better tomorrow. Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer with Kyler Gordon, our guest here on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Tommy?
Right before the commercial, Kyler, Jeff was talking about your interception. And so you got to be honest with us. We got a big audience out here. Mm-hmm. The adhesiveness of the gloves today, does it allow you to think about making harder catches? Because that was a great, job of tipping that, getting control, and then taking it in the good direction. But when you think about the ball flying through the air and you think about what the gloves could do, does it challenge you to make harder catches?
Personally, I would say, honestly, I don't think about the gloves and what they can do. I just think about my own ability and what's the best way for me to catch this ball. I would definitely say that the gloves do have a little bit of a stick to them that you feel more comfortable making a harder catch, yeah. But really just putting yourself or myself in the best position to make that catch, whether it has to be with one hand, two hands, or any way I can tip it to myself. There definitely is a little bit of a stick to it.
So now when you in the modern preparation of NFL football, you have so many tools of improvement, from the jugs machine to practice to the video and everything you have a chance to watch. When you're studying an opponent, I'd say you open up the season and you got receivers like Deebo Samuel and stuff, and then you get ready to play a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers in week 2. Where does your vision go while you're studying your opponent? Does it go quarterback to route, or does it go exclusively route of the receiver?
For me, so far, it's really been offense to the receiver to quarterback. Really trying to figure out, what does our offense coordinator try to do? Because everybody got to do, the whole team, the offense has to do whatever the offensive coordinator is trying to get him to do. So really trying to figure out his concept, what he like, his philosophy, all that. Then stemming down the receivers, who I'm guarding, who's going to be in that position to make those certain plays, and then going back to the quarterback and be like, okay, well, these are his targets, what he likes to do. So really trickling from there, from the offense coordinator to the receivers, the quarterback is what I've been doing so far.
When you play a slot, you play corner, you play slot. As slot, you're going to tackle running backs, you're going to tackle tight ends, you're going to tackle wide receivers, a little bit of everything. So 2 weeks ago, you make a big tackle against the tight end, you stop them on second down, and then you guys get off the field on third down. When you're tackling a bigger guy that may be a little slower than you, do you have more confidence because you could probably get in a better tackling position, when you're tackling a bigger guy?
I'm not as worried about the cutback or him juking. I know I can get there with speed and just shoot at the outside leg or wherever I'm aiming at. Like I said, I'm not really worried about their change of direction or what's going to get me. I know I can fly and just long stride through the quad and just wrap up.
All right, one of those guys. Well, you're going to have a lot of guys for Dallas this week, obviously. CeeDee Lamb is working a lot out of the slot, but he winds up all over the place. But a guy with a great deal of confidence. So what's your scouting report on number 88?
We got our whole little deal. Can't give it all away, but we got our whole little deal for their offense. And we got our stuff planned from he's a good player, good athlete, and we got our little game plan.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the running backs in this game is fantastic. The only two teams in the league with two backs, each with over 400 yards from scrimmage. And then, oh, by the way, we got a QB1 that's approaching 400 yards from scrimmage just with his legs. So it's really a battle with running backs here. Ezekiel Elliott and also Tony Pollard, who's an outstanding receiver as well. How do you feel about their running games?
Yeah, just recognizing, who does what, what they're good at. They're two different type of backs, so knowing what they like to do, how the offense likes to use them, and just the best way for us to go up and approach that.
All right, last two questions because we got to let you go. You got to head to a meeting. Dak Prescott, thoughts on Dak as the starting quarterback?
He's going to be out here. We got our own little scouting report, so I'm still going through my studies of going through what he does and how he is and what he likes, and we're going to have a game plan for him. Great
Northwest is where you're from, and now you're in the Great Midwest. Do you sense the difference in not only geography but the people?
Yeah, no, most definitely. Yeah, there's a difference for sure.
What do you feel? How do you feel?
Over here, it feels pretty welcoming, I guess I would say. There's a lot of nice people out here. It's easy to talk to people. Everyone's pretty cool. I do get a little sense of feel of Washington as far as like the nature out here in the north part of Chicago, and I like it a lot. Make me feel a little bit at home. Yeah, that's the comparison.
Just no ocean. You got the big lake.
Yeah, the big.
Where Tom takes his paddleboard out there on Lake Michigan. So if you like doing that, hook him up. All right, Tommy, we got to let him go. He's got to go to a meeting. Appreciate all the time, and good luck on Sunday in Dallas.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Kyler Gordon, our guest here on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. We'll take a break. We'll be joined by the voice of the Dallas Cowboys, Brad Sham, after this break on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Calling all Bears fans, get the ultimate VIP fan package with Chicago Bears VIP. Secure a game ticket and appearance from Bears legends and more by visiting ChicagoBearsVIP.com. Jeff Joniak, Tom Thayer will be along in a while as we break down Bears Cowboys Sunday, 9 a.m. our pregame coverage on WBBM, the kickoff at noon. Speaking of legends, I'm sitting with one via Zoom with my good friend, the legendary Brad Sham, longtime voice of the Dallas Cowboys, I believe since 1976. And he's seen a lot, he's done a lot, and he's at the top of his game here in 2022 with a very good football team you got here.
It's fun to watch. First of all, drop that legend stuff. Secondly, tell Thayer that I'm taking it personally. That he decided to snub us on this segment.
Right.
They're fun to watch, and they're still a work in progress. I don't know what they'll be. I mean, I feel kind of silly talking to you about works in progress, but defensively, they were so vastly improved last year, which they would almost have to be because they were historically bad in the COVID year in 2020. And so they've taken another step, and they've seemed to have drafted well the last couple of years. And the coaches, particularly Dan Quinn on defense, have done a great job of figuring out how to use guys. And I think that they're not where they're going to be. And offensively, they're definitely not where they're going to be. And it's a little different for this team to have a completely defensive identity and have the offense be viewed as a huge question mark. But that's where we are. It's better than it was when the offense I'm talking about. It's better than it was when the season started. That was to be expected. And I don't believe it's as good as it's going to be by the end of the season. If it'll be good enough, we'll find out.
And let's take a look at you guys a little more in depth. Obviously, the defense with a lot of names of note. Micah Parsons, first and foremost. I start hearing LT comparisons. Lines up every. Is that fair?
Well,
I mean, he's not there yet, but
yeah,
he's awful good.
He's awful good, but he was awful good at Penn State. He just he wasn't there very long.
Yeah,
and you started hearing that last year. He's a little different kind of player than LT, and Dan Quinn has been very good for him, being willing to use him in ways that they didn't calculate. He's been very good about taking coaching and expanding his role, and he sees now what's possible. I don't know who you hesitate to say Lawrence Taylor.
Sure.
By the way, this is another example. A lot of people, you say LT, people think you're talking about LaDainian Tomlinson.
Right.
You're comparing him to a running back.
I know.
No, the original LT was Lawrence Taylor. And as Quinn pointed out last year, Quinn grew up in New Jersey, a big Giants fan. The LT teams were the ones that he watched. And he pointed out correctly that, you always knew where Lawrence Taylor was. He was the right outside linebacker in a 3-4. Now, it didn't mean you could stop him, but you knew where he was. And the beauty of what they're doing with Parsons is that you don't know where he is until it's too late. He's got insane speed for his size, but he also has some things that you can't teach, instincts. He made 2 plays last week, which we've seen him make before, where he basically started to rush. He began his rush on screens and realized 3 steps into an all-out rush that the play was behind him, and he stopped and turned around, recognized it, and ran it down. And one of them probably saved the game. So he's an unusual player.
Now let's flip it to Dak. Dak Prescott, healthy, got the rust off last week. What's the status of Ezekiel, and how would that impact things?
Well, first, are you sure that Dak got all the rust off last week? I mean, he really, if you think about it, he was pretty average. And the only game he played in this year was about 3/4 of the opener, and he was pretty bad in that game. And he didn't play in the preseason season. So you got to go back to the end of last year. I don't know that the rust is knocked off, and his receiving core is not what it was last year. So he's going to be better this week than he was last week, but I think it'll be a few weeks before we see the rust completely off. If I had to guess, if you put a gun to my head, I'd be surprised if Elliott played in this game, only because they've got a bye next week.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a pretty good backup in Tony Pollard, and they've got a kid from Florida, a practice squad running back who a lot of us thought was going to make the team, Malik Davis, and I think he's pretty good. So now Elliott is a warrior. He will not come out. He probably needed to be not playing last year when he had a torn PCL, which is not Pacific Coast League. He wouldn't come out, and so that injury cost him a lot of explosiveness. He's still as good a blocking running back as there might be in the league, and he's extremely smart. But he also might be smart enough to realize that this is only we're not yet at the halfway point of the season. So they won't practice today. They have a recovery program they do on Friday. He hasn't practiced the last 2 days. If I had to guess, I would guess they would tell us that after the Saturday practice that he's not going to play. I would expect that he'll be listed as doubtful today. That's a guess. And then he's essentially got 3 weeks to rehabilitate the injury till after the bye. So, we'll see. The receivers are getting a little better. I think they've got some tight end depth, although the number one tight end is also limping around on a torn PCL, Dalton Schultz. But they've got 2 Big Ten tight ends, rookies, Ferguson from Wisconsin and Hendershot from Indiana, and I think those are going to be good players down the road. So the key is, I think, for them that they have to be able to run the ball, and I think they need to get out in front. I'm who didn't watch the game Monday night and not come away impressed? And you can almost see Fields, I think, growing from week to week. And I think he's an underrated passer. And I'm not sure the team is built to come from 2 touchdowns behind the Bears. So I think for Dallas, a fast start is really important. And to do that, they might have to open it up a little bit more than they have been. So that's the chess game. That's what's fun about watching the games.
You touched on the offense and Fields. How about defensively? Anything stick out that gets your attention that maybe they shut people down in the second half. The adjustments have been working. They don't give up much.
I think they drafted well. I understand 58's not happy with his contract, but he'd look good in a lot of uniforms. He's a really good football player. And the 2 defensive backs they drafted this year, I think they're really, really good players. And so I think that they're young and growing. But I know Matt Eberflus. I don't know him intimately, but I was around him long enough to know. In fact, Prescott said yesterday when he puts the tape up of the Bears, he can see the influence of how Eberflus, and they might have only been together for a year, but you can see the influence of how Flus wants his players to play aggressive, around the ball all the time. It's a style that's very evident when it's being done right, and sometimes the whole can be greater than the sum of the parts. I think that's a little bit true of what's going on in Dallas, and I certainly think that is true of almost any Eberflus defense when they're playing it the way he wants. So you got to have great individual players, a few of them, and he's got some, but he's also a really good coach. And I think as a team, they're starting to play well, and they're going to be a nightmare for everybody they play. And the teams that are going to be able to breathe a little easier in the fourth quarter are the teams that are able to make the Bears play offensively differently than they want to play. But that game Monday night will go a long way. They now know they can do it. And I know New England's not what they were a few years ago and all the rest of that. But I know the Cowboys went to New England last year. They had never won in that stadium. And they needed a play at the end. It was right about mid-year, and Prescott wound up getting hurt on the winning play. and we're not sure how much it affected him the rest of the year, calf injury, but they won on a touchdown pass at the end of the game, and it was a notable celebration, and it said to them, we can do that. We can go on the road. We can go to New England, and we can beat the Patriots. Now the Bears have done that, and as long as Belichick is there, then that's going to be
tough place to play.
That's going to be a thing, right? That's going to be a thing, and that's going to stand the Bears in good stead for a while.
All right, lastly, we'll let you go. Appreciate the time as always. Your team has been built through the draft. There are 39 players homegrown, plus some undrafted free agents added to the mix. The Bears are embarking on that same journey. That's the plan. It's going to take some time, obviously, to do that. The positives of that in the era of free agency, to me, that's the way to do it, is to build through the draft. Is there enough patience for that?
Most of your listeners may not know that I'm a Chicagoan. I've been a Bears fan since I listened to the championship game win over the Giants on the radio in my grandmother's kitchen. I mean, I go back to Bill Wade and Larry Morris and Johnny Morris and Bill George, so I've got a little sense of Bears history. Bears fans, and I believe Cowboys fans, have in common a noted impatience. The key, and what you just said, in my opinion, is 100% right. It's the way to go. You need to spend some money, and then when you do it, you have to be smart.
Yep.
Because those contracts come up in 3 years. You know, this is year 2 for Micah Parsons. I think it's year 3 for CeeDee Lamb. They're going to have to pay those guys, just like they had to pay Prescott. You know, if Justin Fields turns into what the Bears hope he is, they're going to have to pay him. And that's what's going on with Roquan Smith right now. So patience is a difficult thing to come by. In the Twitter age, fans don't want to hear it. Like Cowboy fan, I saw on Twitter this morning, the Eagles are talking to the Saints. They're trying to get Alvin Kamara. This place will go nuts if the Eagles get Alvin Kamara, because the Cowboys aren't spending that money. They're not. You look at the Rams.
Right.
They went short-term, big money. 3 years from now, the Rams may be standing on a street corner jiggling a cup for a contribution of a quarter. But nobody cares about that. Right now is what they see. I really believe, and I'm just talking about the Bears now, I know Matt Eberflus. I look at the young players the Bears have. I see the way they drafted. They weren't going to win a Super Bowl with Robert Quinn, but that 4th-round pick might turn out to be an outstanding player. And Bears fans are tired of hearing be patient. I get it. But listen to Jeff Joniak. He's telling you the truth. It's really the only way that makes sense. You have to throw in some stuff. If they move and they get the stadium, something splashy will happen, because the front office will understand that you have to do something besides just put a building up. But you have to be smart about how you do it. I believe the Bears are on the track of doing it the smart, right way. They need offensive linemen. But look at Fields. Look at his competitiveness. Look at his physical ability. I see a guy who can win if he has the pieces around him. But you don't just, this is coming from a diehard Cub fan, as Jeff knows, you don't just wave him. As Bill Parcells used to say, you cannot go down to the Texaco and dial up 1-800 defensive end. It just doesn't happen. Be patient, because good things are going to come.
Brad, great stuff as always. I could talk to you for hours. We'll see you Sunday.
Me too, pal. Me too. See you Sunday.
Take care. Brad Sham, voice of the Dallas Cowboys, back with Tom Thayer on a final segment after this on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Great seats available to see your Chicago Bears this season at Soldier Field. Get your tickets at chicagobears.com/tickets. And this segment of Bears All Access is brought to you by CDW, people who get it, with Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak, overall Alan Williams on how to deal with a player like Dak Prescott, who's had a couple of 4,000-yard passing seasons, nearly a 5,000-yard passing season a couple years ago.
It's still not about Dak Prescott. It's still about how we execute our defense, how we run, how we hit, how we hustle, the intensity of how we get to the football, taking the football away. You know, whether it's Dak or anyone else, we try to look at it as a nameless, faceless opponent, and it's about the Chicago Bears defense and playing complementary football.
And which they did very well against New England. Tom, that was the first time Prescott had played, by the way, in 42 days. Did he look rusty to you on tape, or is he just the knowledge of the system and his work there with Kellen Moore makes it an easy transition to get the rust off?
Timing is so specific to a quarterback, especially in the passing game. Yeah, he did look a little rusty, but he's got a little different, he can target so many different people. And I think as you described the formations during the Dallas game, it's going to be interesting for the description of the position of the wide receivers. Because when you think of Jalen Johnson, you think of Kendall Vildor, you think of Kyler Gordon, where those receivers line up is going to play an important role in how they play defense.
And Dalton Schultz, a player to watch as well, caught all 5 of his targets against Detroit. And then third-string rookie Peyton Hendershot caught a touchdown pass in the game as well. But the impressive part of this whole thing to Matt Eberflus is the running game.
Really do a good job protecting the quarterback. They do a nice job with their protections. They've limited the number of sacks they've had, but they really rely on their running game. They do a nice job with the two-headed guys there with Pollard and Ezekiel. And again, they do a really good job of their receivers blocking on the perimeter. So it's going to be a tough task for us.
What do you think of that offensive line? There's a domer on there, well-decorated one at right guard, number 70, Zach Martin.
Yeah, they have a good, solid offensive line. They still are missing a couple of key pieces that really could turn that offensive line into the next level. How the Bears are able to use the mobility of a guy like Justin Fields, Dallas can do the same thing. And I'm sure week 2 of his comeback from the thumb surgery, I don't ever expect that he'll be in less condition because he's an athlete that works hard. So the Bears defensive front is going to have to be able to slow down the rushing game as well as rush the passer at the same time.
Robert Quinn traded to Philadelphia this week. Reverberations in the locker room. A lot of respect for him from the young guys, including Dominique Robinson, but now an opportunity for him and Trevis Gibson and some others.
It's a big opportunity. It's been like this since college almost. It's the next man up, so you never know when your opportunity is going to come. We got some shoes to fill, but I think that the higher-ups, they felt comfortable with us, taking over, so we got to put on now.
Yeah, the higher-ups being Ryan Poles and the coaching staff. Robinson, again, didn't let that go unnoticed.
Yeah, it's a confidence booster. My confidence been building ever since I got here, though. So, I came in during the rookie stuff, kind of a little nervous, but once I seen that I could play with some of these guys, I was like, okay. And then as the weeks keep going on, our confidence continues to build. So I'm just going to keep trying to stack and, do what I do best.
He's raw and untapped, man. He's got so much potential.
Well, it's like Luke Getsy talking about the offense that you need reps. This is a young man that needs a lot of reps. He needs to be able to visualize the difference between run and pass. He needs to understand the balance of the stances of the guys he's playing against. He's got to be able to read the down and distance, what hash mark they're starting on. There's so much pre-snap information that has to run through your head. All those parts of learning football are equally as important as any time he comes out of his stance.
So how do you defend this team? Because they do have a lot of weapons, and they have a veteran quarterback, but they haven't put up a lot of points. Even with Cooper Rush doing so well, and they won 5 games overall this season, the numbers offensively are not staggering. It's the defense that has set the table for them.
You got to keep Dak inside the pocket, Jeff. You got to try to close and condense the area to make him really uncomfortable. Be careful of his follow-through motion so it doesn't hit the helmet of one of his offensive linemen. So if you can keep him inside that pocket, ask him to throw the ball a little bit earlier, then you're talking about playing into the hands of the defensive players. And he's the type of guy that wants to sit back, locate, target, and then throw.
Yeah, 14 of 14 on passes of 10 or fewer air yards in his return, and also on play action, 11 of 12, 121 yards and a touchdown. There goes the running game, setting it up for you.
Exactly. And again, it's almost a mirror image of each other because those are probably stats that you could read about Justin. The running game is going to help you with your passing game, and it's the same thing in Dallas. However, I just think when you're coming off of that thumb injury and you want to close that pocket down and you want to make sure that Dak is throwing with bodies around him, maybe you change his arm level, his arm angle, the release of the football a little bit more to help you defensively.
All right, let's go back to how to attack that defense. And now with more design runs that were unveiled in New England for quarterback Justin Fields, what that means for Micah Parsons, what that means for Dallas. I was watching the Thursday night game and how Baltimore used Lamar Jackson. And, of course, Justin admitted that they stole a few plays from Baltimore using the same kind of philosophies that the Ravens do. They really tired out the defense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and then just hammered them. That was the plan the whole game. And can the Bears do something like that? They have the same elements.
Taking plays from Baltimore means Baltimore took plays from somebody else and so on down the line. Again, from my own experience as a player, when I go and watch the development of a guy like John Elway, that's the same thing they did with John Elway. They had quarterback sweeps. They had quarterback rollouts. They had a quarterback that was moving all over the field to tire out one of the best defenses I saw in the history of the NFL, and that was the Bears defense. So I think whether you're talking about Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields, every one of these guys have the leg power, the arm talent, the mental part of the football game to really use their versatility as a threatening asset to guys like Micah Parsons.
Interesting. Luke Getsy, was asked about these design runs and a new page in the playbook, so to speak, but he said it wasn't as different as people think.
I mean, we've been doing it all year. I think what we do with our entire offense is we try to get the premier play against the defense, and so they presented some cool opportunities for us that we were able to kind of get better angles and stuff with the quarterback run this past week. So we wanted to make sure we took advantage of it. It didn't hurt that we had an extra day as far as like necessarily creating a new offense, and no, we didn't do anything differently from that perspective, and we went about it the way we kind of always do in our game plan part of it, and what gives us the best opportunity, what gives all 11 guys the best opportunity to succeed.
And now from Matt Eberflus on the Bears Coaches Show Monday night on WBBM, will this be the norm with Fields?
How much we'll use those, I don't know. We'll use some of them. We'll sprinkle them in there. Again, it's all based on who we're playing and what we're going to do and how we're going to do things for that particular week to win the game. But when you have that commitment by the offensive staff, and us as Bears in general, that's something that's important to us. And the three guys that can do it, the two runners and the quarterback, that's special for those guys.
Well, and as a defensive mind, he knows how tough that is to defend.
Jeff, it's all about using them when you need them. Because you go over and we sit there every day at training camp and you see them practice all these plays and you go, wow, it's going to be interesting when you see it. And then you never see it. And then all of a sudden an opportunity presents itself to go, hey, let's go back in the archives, what we were doing in training camp. I'm going to show you guys some examples of this play that'll work perfectly in the environment or the personnel we're playing against. Then you pull it out and you used it. And so Luke Getsy, he's probably got 500 plays in his back pocket that he could call at any moment. However, you're not going to call them unless you need them and they fit your game plan.
Has it moved you in any way that they are the number one rushing team in the NFL?
Oh, it warms my heart. As much as I admire what Chris Morgan has been able to do since he started developing an offensive line that was going to be able to compete against the pass, compete against the run, and be as good as they have been. And then you have immediate changes, whether it's Cody getting injured, Lucas Patrick getting injured, not knowing who you're going to start at the offensive tackle position, how Tevin Jenkins is going to fit in. But I really admire how the desire of the running back position matches the intensity of the offensive line, because it's got to be a 1-2 punch. The running backs are not going to do it on their own, and the offensive line is not going to be able to have this type of running game if they don't all work together from the start of the week of practice until the final whistle blows.
All right, Tom, that's going to do it for us. We'll talk to you in Dallas on the radio, buddy. I want to thank everybody for listening tonight, and our producers, Dan Barilli, Jordan Tredup, and the folks at The Score. Thanks to Kyler Gordon as well. Appreciate you listening tonight. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. This has been Bears All Access on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Good night, everybody.